When Julie asked me to speak about what it's been like being a mother to teenagers over the past couple years, and what the mothers I work with who are experiencing homelessness have endured, I asked her if I could just come up here and lay my head down and cry. She said that would be fine and that many people would likely relate. I won't do that, but I have to say that I didn't really want to be up here. But first, who can say no to Julie? Thank you for being the kind of person I cannot say no to. And second, I do feel a deep sense of honor and a responsibility to share some of the stories that I've been witness to throughout the pandemic. I'm really grateful for all of you who are some of what held me up even when we weren't together over the past couple years. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to share with you on this May Day as we start this special month of honoring Mary and mothers around the world. I have the most brilliant, fun, and kind children in the world. And I know that all of the mothers and mother figures in this space do as well. I also have the most loyal and loving partner a person could ask for. And I hope that all of you have someone like that in your lives helping you through times like this. As mothers, our hearts broke and mended so many times throughout this pandemic. My heart broke for all the things my kids were missing: high school graduation, sports teams, prom, youth group, teachers, and sleepovers. I also worried about all the things that my kids were getting too much of. Food, we ate all day long. Screens, too much downtime. There were also, of course, moments of great joy. I got to know my kids in a new way, and as much as they hated it sometimes, it was a gift to have so much time together. My worries ranged from the mundane to the serious. Concern over screen time limits to worries about mental health. For those of us with privileged, generally stable lives, it's been a tough couple of years. But for those whose lives were already in crisis or who were bordering crisis, it's been so much more. I saw mothers who set their children up in the car to do online learning while they went into work. They were worried the whole day that someone would call child protection and take their kids away. It was a risk that they decided they had to take to survive. Mothers whose lives were so chaotic that their children didn't go to school at all. Mothers who had to navigate a computer for the first time in a language they couldn't read, figure out how to connect to the internet that they've never had. Mothers who listened to their daughters cry because they didn't want to turn their camera on. Their classmates would know they were in a shelter. Mothers who stayed in abusive relationships because they didn't want to risk COVID moving to a congregate safe space. Mothers who lost their sons to violence. And mothers whose sons perpetuated violence, and they all lost their housing because of it. I heard from a daughter who took her first job to cover for her mom who was injured at work so they wouldn't lose their home. Her admiration for everything her mom endured in a work world not in her home language grew immensely. I met mothers who were so focused on trying to get out of homelessness that they barely knew there was a pandemic happening. I heard from Black and Indigenous mothers responding to a long history of dishonest and racist medical practices, trying to navigate their level of trust with this system in order to get the vaccine. Mothers who had nowhere to go with their 4 children except a 1-bedroom senior living apartment complex with their grandfather. The kids never left the room for fear of getting someone high-risk sick. How did they carry it all? And don't get me wrong, these mothers, just like you and I, also found joy and connection and love amidst all the pain. The ability to carry this, all the horror and all the joy, we shouldn't be surprised. This dichotomous sense of being mother, it's how it all started. What is labor but not the worst pain we've ever been through and the most exhilarating and joyful moment of our lives? This pandemic shined a light on disparities that existed long before we were forced to look at them as a matter of life or death. What does a stay-at-home order mean for someone who doesn't have one? How do students do online school without the internet? How did they do their homework before? How do families get enough to eat without breakfast and lunch at school? And how is it that we live in a community with so much excess, and yet so many mothers can barely provide for their children? And how do we as people of faith carry this knowledge? I don't know what the answers are, but I'd like to close with a poem by Mary Oliver, who always finds a way to say it. It's called Heavy, and I'd like to read it in honor of all the mothers and all the mother figures in our community and all that they carry every day. Heavy. That time I thought I could not go any closer to grief without dying, I went closer, and I did not die. Surely God had her hand in this, as well as friends. Still, I was bent, and my laughter, as the poet said, was nowhere to be found. Then said my friend Daniel, brave even among lions, "It's not the weight you carry, but how you carry it. Books, bricks, grief. It's all in the way you embrace it, balance it, carry it, when you cannot and would not put it down." So I went practicing. Have you noticed? Have you heard the laughter that comes now and again out of my startled mouth? How I linger to admire the things of this world that are kind and maybe also troubled. Roses in the wind, the sea geese on the steep waves, a love to which there is no reply. May we, as a community, continue to recognize and share the weight carried by people in poverty, and may we always work to change the systems that keep it so.